Welcome to TFART Explainer.
Imagine standing in an 11th century monastery. You are sealed off from the outside world by shadows and constant pressure. Above you, thousands of tons of solid rock pulled downward, held in place only by the sheer bulk of the architecture. Builders of the Romanesque era transitioned to stone for a very practical reason. Wooden roofs were fire hazards that could destroy an entire community. To solve this, architects capped their churches with heavy masonry, most commonly the tunnel-like barrow vault. This is an interior view of heavy masonry. Notice the massive compound supports and thick arches required to keep the ceiling from collapsing. To resist the stone roof's outward push, walls were built with fortress-like thickness, leaving almost no space for windows. These engineering constraints defined the medieval experience. By physical necessity, the early stone cathedrals were dark, claustrophobic strongholds. Because most of the population was illiterate and books were rare treasures, the church used architecture as its primary tool for instruction. Those massive, windowless walls provided a vast surface for religious storytelling. Looking at these narrative frescoes, the style is intentionally flat, rhythmic, and symbolic. The artists were not attempting to capture natural realism. They were delivering a spiritual message that could be read from the floor below. This is a carving above a cathedral door. The central figure uses distorted, stylized proportions to convey divinity, while the scenes surrounding it depict the chaos of the Last Judgment. These terrifying visions served as a constant warning to those entering the church. In the Romanesque era, mass, darkness, and rigid symbolism functioned as a single system. The weight of the stone and the severity of the art taught the faithful through a sense of awe. By the 12th century, artisan guilds in the Île-de-France region looked to defy these heavy stone limits. They sought a new way to build that reached higher toward the heavens while flooding the interior with natural light. This diagram compares the two structural approaches. A round arch is height limited by its width. You can only go so high before the curve is finished. The pointed arch solved this, allowing builders to push the ceiling higher without needing to widen the weights of the structure. They combined this with ribbed vaulting, a skeletal web of stone ribs that carries the roof's weight. Because the downward force travels only through these ribs, the ceiling panels in between could be made from a thin, lightweight layer of stone. Gothic architecture transformed the act of building into a precise calculation of load and resistance, directing every ounce of pressure through a predetermined stone path. But soaring height created a new physical threat. The taller the arches grew, the more outward thrust they generated, potentially pushing the high walls to the point of collapse. This image shows the external nave walls. These are flying buttresses, external stone arms that catch that outward thrust and push the walls back inward. This is a view of the high nave ceiling. Follow these thin shafts down to the floor. These are clustered columns that gather the force of the ribs and drive it in one continuous vertical sweep straight into the ground. Together, these four miracles created a self-sustaining skeleton. This framework held the entire weight of the building, which meant the walls were no longer required for support. By balancing thrust and counterthrust, medieval engineers successfully neutralized the structural requirement for solid walls. As the skeleton takes over the load, the thick stone walls dissolve. In their place, massive voids open up between the pillars. These voids were filled with stained glass, transforming the space into a house of glass where walls transmit light directly to create glowing narratives. To hold these vast webs of glass against the wind, architects designed stone tracery, the intricate geometric patterns that provide the structural grip for the glass. With wall space disappearing in the north, painters moved to secular workshops to illustrate books. This shift led to highly detailed manuscript illumination, capturing architectural details and rural life with new precision. Light became the new medium for storytelling, replacing the heavy, dark interiors of the earlier stone cathedrals. This structural revolution also liberated sculpture. Because statues no longer acted as load-bearing parts of a column, they broke free from their rigid architectural shapes. In this high Gothic sculpture group, note the relaxed poses, the human interaction, and how the stone drapery follows the natural folds of real fabric. Zooming in on the face of the Baudieu, we see a welcoming, human expression. The terrifying monsters of the Romanesque era are gone, replaced by a new focus on grace and emotional resonance. The move to Gothic was a physical triumph that swapped the heavy, symbolic weight of stone for a world defined by light and human realism.